Today on the Retro Zoo Super Show, we're going to get all Dark Dungeons up in here.
Live from Kakariko Village. Broadcast throughout the Retroverse, transmitted to the real world via a maze of wires connecting a Super Nintendo to a Wii, to a Wi-Fi network, and finally to the Internet. The Techno Funk Boy presents the Retro Zoo Super Show. Now here are your hosts, Kai and Steven.
Thank you for tuning into the Retro Zoo Super Show. I am your host, Kai.
And I'm Steven. Let me try that again. And I'm Steven. I don't know if that worked either.
I think you identified yourself both times.
Okay. All right, good. Just making sure.
Oh goodness. Well, so if you tuned in last week, we of course know. You might not know unless you tuned in last week, or if you did tune in and you just forgot, because it made that little of an impression on you. But we are starting a series on Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop RPGs, and all of that good jazz.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Everything you say makes you laugh.
I'm sorry. It's just there's a lot of dead air after I said that, and
I was actually adjusting my level, and so oh goodness, wow.
No,
we are on top of things.
No, dude. No, I loved the last episode, and it was great hearing from Timmy and the gang, and man.
Why is it that I'm always the one that ends up with Timmy, since I'm the only one who doesn't like him? I mean, Timmy, I love you. I mean, I love you, but I just can't stand the kid.
Well, I think that's that sometimes that, when you can't stand somebody, that attracts him to you more. So he probably looks up to you because he feels like you're constantly testing him, perhaps.
Are you saying that Timmy is my Padawan?
I think that's how Padawans, you could look at Obi and Anakin, that's kind of how there was a lot of testing going on there, and I don't know. But it was good to hear the show, and it's actually made me really excited about playing some. I've been meaning to play Call of Cthulhu. I bought the books a while ago.
Oh, I didn't know you bought the books.
Yeah, I've got the whatever, the Dungeon Master's guy, which is not called the Dungeon Master. I forgot what it's called offhand, but
I think Dungeon Master is trademark Wizards of the Coast.
I'm pretty sure this is
probably every other game has a game master.
Yeah. Exactly. No,
that's awesome. Okay, so and we're gonna and part of the series is we're gonna talk a little bit about like real play podcasts and stuff. And so we're getting a little ahead of us, but I listened to a lot of Cthulhu and Friends podcast.
Okay, yeah.
Which is not a family friendly podcast, but it is. But that game is. The game's intense, much like the writings of Lovecraft are. So, right. Oh goodness. So, if you need another body for that game, just let me know.
I'm being very careful as I hand select people. I've got to make sure that their credentials line up with mine, and that our time frames are on the same. No, dude, it'll probably never actually happen.
Oh, no, we got to make this happen.
I fantasize about it. Okay, then we should make it happen because
let's make it happen.
I've been looking at these books. Okay, but here's the other thing. Here's my big dilemma, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And actually, the last week's show, like I said, it kind of got me inspired because it started talking about, y'all were going through a little mini session or whatever, and it was a lot of fun to listen to. But I started thinking about tabletop games again. I was thinking about Call of Cthulhu, and then I started thinking, what I really want to play? And I wasn't really thinking about any game in particular, but I was just like thinking in my mind. I was like, I want to be in a spaceship, and I want to be able to modify it, and I want to have a crew, kind of like Firefly, but not necessarily like of that universe, but like just because I like that universe, but it's not my favorite sci-fi universe. I like the characters in that universe, but the villains and the hero, the conflict aren't my favorite. But I'm more of a Star Wars person. And then I was talking to you, and I think you mentioned that because I was saying Edge of the Empire, which is a tabletop Star Wars game. Mm-hmm. And I realized, I was like, man, I wonder if they have that ability, and to have a ship, and like that's a part of the game is maintaining your vehicle. And I guess that kind of, I don't know, that the idea of having a team of people and like working around a vehicle for some reason, like maintaining it. Maybe it's because I'm a helicopter pilot from Contra, that I have that attraction to wanting to work around a vehicle.
Okay, so yeah, you definitely need to get in this because there are two podcasts based on that. I think it's that game. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But there were two podcasts that I've listened to, and one of them we're going to actually have the DM. We're going to have on the GM. Sorry, GM. Wizards of the Coast. I meant GM. I didn't mean DM. That was a little slip of the tongue. I did not mean Dungeon Master at all. I meant Game Master. But we're going to have the GM of that show on this show.
Oh, nice.
And which is cool because I haven't told you that yet.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, but his show, they have a ship, and I don't know how it all functions, but they go through actually a lot of ships, and they have a ship, and they've gone through a lot of ships. They've flown a lot of ships. And so, flying and repair and upkeep and all that was definitely part of that game. And so I definitely think that's so. Anyways, so when we talk to him, I think we're going to get you even more hyped for that because we're getting way ahead of ourselves because we do want to talk about this a little bit, but getting too ahead of ourselves. What do we? Okay, so. There's a couple of things that we need to address, and then we're going to start talking about, just kind of our own experiences, because neither one of us, I'm going to speak for myself. I have not been, a rabid player of tabletop RPGs, not because I don't want to, but just because it's been difficult for me to find a group. And so, I'm going to go, we'll talk about some of the games that we've played, but this is actually a genre of games that I love more than I play, if that makes sense.
Right. No. That makes, I think that's how I feel about games. I love them more than I play them.
That's true. That's even true for me with video games. It's just, especially, good night, man. And you've been involved in this, and I've streamed once in the last week, and that's the Tuesday regularly scheduled stream. And it's because we've been knee deep in music. And just really, really pushing on the music side of things. Our first of the monthly songs for the year will actually debut next week. We're kind of wrapping it up now, but we will debut it next week. And I know that's February. I know that's the second month of the year. And yes, we are already a month behind, but we're going to catch up. Don't worry. As much as we've been recording, and part of that is just like I've composing and recording for the other podcast, which we're going to get deep into in a couple of weeks, has been a lot in a really good way, but it's been a lot. And that's what I mean. We've done a lot of that lately, and a lot of songs, and okay, so I mean, just for people who don't know, we'll just kind of address this now. Like, I am a player in an upcoming that's going to be debuting in February, a real play podcast, and I want to say I got roped into composing for the show, but I kind of volunteered, so I only have myself to blame. But we're recording all of this original music for this show, and we've got a crap ton of it already. And just so y'all know, I mean, we've recorded something like 12, 15 episodes already, and so it's like we're way ahead of the debut. We have a lot of material already recorded. And it's the same with music. It's like we're working on episodes 13-ish, composing and recording. It's just been a lot,
right?
And so that kind of put us behind a little bit on debuting the first month of music for our patrons over at Patreon. But we're getting there. Long story short, we're getting there, right? That's essentially what I'm trying to communicate here.
Well, and our patrons, we have to remember, are like the most forgiving people, and they totally understand. I mean,
I don't think we have any yet.
No, we do, dude. We have. Remember all the other ones? Remember we were talking? I thought we had a ton of patrons.
No,
I'm misinformed.
No, I don't think we have any.
Okay.
So
we would totally understand if we had some.
Yes. So, like, if you become the first patron at even the lowest level, we are essentially we're arranging and recording this music specifically for you. Now it's going to be released as a pay album later in the year, but for you,
okay, here's a question. What if I take that and I download it illegally and sell it before you've released it and I sell for more of a profit?
You're going to steal music from your own band.
Oh, I mean, yes, because I would be taking all of y'all's combined efforts and then selling it for my own benefit.
I think that would put a damper on the relationship, but
if you found out,
that's true.
I have sources. I have people that really dig our music, just in places that you don't know about. And I'm just saying, I think it would be a big hit there, and I can maybe make some money, but I would never do that, though.
Oh, gosh. Okay, well, yeah. Could you at least sign up to be a patron in the meantime?
Well, that's how all this would have to work. Yeah, I'd have to sign up.
Yeah. I don't actually give you our music. I make you pay for it after you recorded it.
That's what I was sensing a double standard going on. So.
Absolutely. Oh gosh. So, all right. So, yeah. Now that we've gone around the bend on this stuff. So, real briefly, if y'all don't know, what we're talking about is tabletop RPGs are. It's a kind of a genre in a very wide-ranging genre of gaming that uses. A lot of it can use your own notes or maps. A lot of it can use just your pure imagination. A lot of it can use miniatures. But the point of it is that you are narrating the story according to a specific set of rules, and that as a group around a table. Well, it doesn't have to be around the table anymore, but that's kind of where it gets its name, right?
Right.
And so this kind of all began with Dungeons and Dragons, and Dungeons and Dragons remains the most recognizable of these systems, but you have a lot of them that got a lot of attention, such as like Pathfinder, just became huge. But there's a lot of these, and so it's tough to talk about them as just as a group. I mean, it's kind of like talking about like doing an episode on NES games, and it's like, okay, well, kind of where do you start? And you probably start with Super Mario Brothers, And that's kind of the way we're going to approach it, is to start with the big one. And that's Dungeons and Dragons. So, this all started in the 70s, where, there were war games before this, where it's kind of a similar situation where you have a set of rules and you have like a map and a situation, you use miniatures on it, and you command your army to play out this giant battle. And one of these avid players, and somebody who wrote about these games and also wrote campaign situations, was Gary Gygax. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a campaign setting called Battle Axe. And in the meantime, there was another one, David Arneson, who was also involved in that, that atmosphere, and he wrote this system that was called Blackmore. And the two of them got together, and they'd been friends previously, of course, and the two of them got together and modified what they were doing into the original Dungeons and Dragons. And that original set came out in 1974. And it was kind of humorously, it had in it the same three books that we're used to in Dungeons, in like the base rule sets. You had one on how to create your heroes, right, one about all the monsters and treasures, and the third one is some adventures, which kind of corresponds with the Dungeon Master Guide in more modern iterations. But what's hilarious about these is how short they are. Like they're about 36 pages each. And, there's a lot of stuff that we're like used to in it, right, but there's also a lot of stuff that, that's missing. So like there's only three classes: the fighting man, the cleric, or the magic user. And that's it. And so there's a few different races. One, they accidentally call hobbits at one point, which, kind of, the Tolkien family was not all that pleased about that. They did sue him.
But, they did.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. This is what's hilarious about the original stuff, is how much they just outright either borrowed or swiped from people. Like artwork is like they would find something cool they liked from, some pulp magazine or something, and they would just essentially kind of redraw it and use it in their stuff. And it's like, they were used to distributing these things to just a few hundred people maybe. And so, they didn't, I'm pretty sure they just didn't think anybody would notice, but then they got big and people noticed. So like, yeah, the Tolkien family, sued them. And, but what they had meant was halflings. They said halflings in every other spot in the book, but they had halflings, elves, dwarves, and humans. But that's kind of it for that section. And so it doesn't have the fullness that we're used to. In just a few years from that, in 77 is when the first edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons comes out. And then, they had some D&D Basic Rule Set second edition, but the big one was 1989, AD&D second edition. And that's kind of where everybody gets on board this thing.
In Advanced Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah. That's when it really, really takes off. And since then we've had a few more editions, starting in the year 2000. Most recently in 2014, 5th edition came out. The game that I'm playing is a D&D 5th edition game. and it's an absolute blast. We can start the edition wars here if we want to.
Nah.
Okay, let's just skip at that then.
I hope that wasn't a big segment you had planned.
No, but yeah. So, this is something that like I didn't have a lot of exposure to because where I grew up, I wasn't allowed to play it, and this was, this was right in the heart of the satanic panic of the late 80s going into the 90s, and Dungeons and Dragons was at the heart of that. Do you remember the Jack Chick tracks?
Mm-hmm. You showed me one.
Did I show you Dark Dungeons?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's so great. I don't mean it great as in, good theology or anything. It's not.
Well,
please don't judge us Christians by that.
I thought the theology was actually pretty good on it. I mean, it's basically, no, I'm just kidding. I was going to try to play devil's advocate with you.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, the whole point of this booklet is that, Dungeons and Dragons is just kind of a gateway into actual witchcraft and one character in it. Her character dies in the game and she becomes so distraught she kills herself. Yeah. And then that
was touching, actually.
Yeah.
I was really moved for her.
And another character has reached a certain level, and so the DM starts introducing her to real magic, and she starts casting spells on her parents until, she can't take it anymore. But this is the kind of stuff that it's like the parents of the day just had no frame of reference for this, right? And I'm reading this biography of Gary Gygax, and there's like this hilarious episode in it back in the War Games segment where like he keeps going out with his friends like on the weekend to play war games, and sometimes he's out all night, and so his wife like is convinced that he's cheating on her. And so she marches over to the house where he's at and like bangs on the door and finds him playing war games. Like he said he was. And she's like bewildered by this. It's like, this makes less sense than you actually having a girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
But that's the frame of reference. It's like today, Dungeons and Dragons is, we understand it. Even if people don't like it, we've all been exposed to this. But in the 80s, when this pops up and parents are just like, have no idea what this is about, and starts picking through things and see some demons in there, and some, one of the covers has an inappropriate picture on the front, and they just didn't know what to think. And so my household was one of those that I was not allowed to play. And so it wasn't until college that I actually got to play it.
Yeah, I remember something similar. No, my household didn't have rules against that kind of stuff, but I played Magic the Gathering, and I remember, I think it disturbed my mom that I had these, I think they were from The Dark. I think they were from the expansion The Dark. I think it was these Unholy Strengths, which were like these black cards, and that they would give like +2/+1 to target creature, or and so but it was a pretty good little power, but I think it was a common. And the old ones, the expensive ones from The Dark or whatever, they had the pentagram, the flaming pentagram in the background. But I think in 4th edition they redid it and they took out the flaming pentagram. So mom would like make us do that kind of stuff. She's like, get them on. She'd see them on. I think we probably showed it to her as kids. Like, oh look, mom, this has a pentagram on it. And I'm sure that like, I wonder how many Dungeons and Dragons kids like, guess what, mother? I'm doing battle with demons now. Like trying to like just freak their mom out or whatever. Right, I wonder how many like parents got upset over like just their children using Dungeons and Dragons as a form of rebellion or something. But yeah, I think for the most part, I mean, I do remember knowing some people who were uncomfortable with Magic, or that type of gaming.
Oh yeah.
And so, but and I guess like the thing that's so funny about all these prohibition style movements against things that aren't inherently evil or wrong is that like even like trends and fads and stuff. It's like, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that, or this is how everybody has to do it now, or this is this turned out this was wrong all the time. But like, it seems like the constant problem isn't actually like the content, but it's people afraid that they know somebody that like video games. You hear parents talking about that all the time. It's a hot topic. It's like, oh, my kids play too much video. Well, they probably do play too much. It's like it's a common complaint. Like you hear, and I just think that it's about like moderation. Is key. And so I think with a lot of these games, I wonder if parents got freaked out then because like it was so freaking fun. Their kids didn't want to stop playing it, or they go to the little Jimmy's house, down the street, and they'd be gone for 6 hours because all of a sudden there was like rules on their imagination, which allowed them to delve into it further, because it created a framework, which I think is why tabletop gaming and stuff like that is something that still fascinates me, even though I've never really got it. Like we said earlier, it's like it fascinates me, but it's something I haven't really delved into much. I mean, I've played a few campaigns, half campaigns over the course of my life, but it's something that like I wish it were my weekend hobby with friends. I wish that was how I spent my weekends, was with like a cold beer, a couple of buddies, at least every other weekend, like a group of 4 or 5 guys, and like we just hammered through like some crazy world. And
right.
and that's why the thing is when you find that hard to fit into your schedule for even a season in life, you have things like what you're talking about, like the new Dungeons and Dragons that game that you're going to be involved in and doing the music for and stuff. It's like I'm actually really excited about following along with that, because to me that's like a way for me to cathartically get out the desire to role play is by listening to other people's. But I do
no,
know.
Don't get it out. I want to play Star Wars with you or Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, yeah, dude, we'll nail one of them. We'll get one of them at some point. I think I need to get through. I got a little crazy part of my life, as you know, about coming up, and it's like, so once I get over this next little hill in the next few months, I mean, it was going to be crazy for a minute, but I think that's something I want to get involved with because I actually want to do it with some of my Koopas, and so I think that
that'd be
would
cool.
really be. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, no, I'm excited about this upcoming show, and I'm excited about like, it's been an inspiration. It's not sated my desire for role playing, but it gives you something to kind of feed off of until you can get that group of people together,
right?
To play. So.
Well, yeah, and part of our series here is we're gonna go into some of the technology that has made getting together easier than ever. But yeah, it's like I actually, you know what? Let's hit a break.
All right.
Because this is a good point for it. All right.
No, perfect.
Going to break.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Phil from philsgamingemporium.com. That's your source for all your retro gaming needs and your tabletop needs. I have been so inspired by this new series. I am so pumped that I have gathered some of the greatest, the just top tier free resources from online and printed them all together and stapled them together, and now this pack of personally cultivated materials, personally cultivated resources can be yours for the low price of $59.99. Head over to philsgamingemporium.com, philsgamingemporium.com, and we will see you there. Okay, that was a great break. We're back.
Wonderful break.
Awesome break. Oh, goodness.
That was like the best break ever.
Easily. Well, I don't know. Top 5, maybe.
Top 5. Yeah, top 4.5.
Oh, gosh. So when I got to college, I got, I really wanted to get into it. And so I got like this, kind of beginner set that was kind of cool. It had like the abbreviated, player's guide. That's just, just going to get you into the first few levels, abbreviated Dungeons and Masters guide and, some miniatures and stuff. This was second edition at the time. And, actually played it with one of my professors and a couple of my friends. And I had to be the DM because none of them had ever played it either. But I own the box. And
So you were the DM.
So I was the DM. Yeah. And soon thereafter, we kept trying to get together again and it just never worked. And soon thereafter, third edition came out and I got the beginner set of that too and, played part of that. It didn't have all the cool miniatures and stuff in it. It just had you just like the punch out, cardboard little icons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so of course I was DM again. And, then the next time we played, it was actually MERP. Because I found Middle Earth role playing that was, I think, originally published in the 80s, at a library book sale for like a quarter. It's great. Best purchase ever. And we played that with a much larger group, and that was a lot of fun. None of us had played it before,
right?
And so I had to be GM.
That was a lot of fun.
It was great. So that kind of brings us to what's so attractive about this, and why what sets it apart from like video game RPGs, because the rule set itself can be, it's just numbers, right? It's algorithms. It's just math. And it's just, hey, roll the dice. If it has this number on it, then it's going to hit. Well, computers can do that all day long. That's exactly what computers do.
Right.
And so, and that's why from the very beginning, people have been trying to put role-playing games onto consoles, onto computers, and that sort of things. And even Dungeons and Dragons games, being put onto everything. But what sets it apart is the kind of things that computers cannot do. And that's, the left turns you take. You can even play computers in a group, but the computers cannot anticipate just the really randomness that a group of people playing characters can do. And that's why, it's important for these core rules to just kind of set up a structure that can be used in pretty much every circumstance, because the writers are not going to anticipate the circumstance. And so they need some way to say, okay, if your player comes up with something out of left field, here's how to kind of judge that.
Right.
And that was the best part about, playing in that group. And it was a pretty large group from our church that we played with. And, just the wild, crazy stuff that happened that was an absolute blast, and none of it came from the book.
Yeah. That's how it happens, man. That's how it happens when you're using your imagination.
Yeah. And then I
think Barney told us this lesson. Wasn't he big into the imagination?
Man, I don't know. I didn't watch that.
No.
You're like picking up the remote to turn it off.
Yeah,
me neither. I don't watch that stuff.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. And, it's like, okay, so I want to tell a couple of stories from this.
Yeah.
So, one of the characters just had a remarkably high charisma. And, what did we call him?
Awesome Presence.
Awesome Presence, yes.
That was his name. Awesome Presence.
And he literally, when he entered the battle for the first time and everybody saw him for the first time, he rolled, a crit fail, for running.
Really?
Yeah. And he tripped.
How's that even possible?
And we were making fun of him because it was this awesome presence coming in the room, with
falls
such great charisma that like everybody's in awe of him walking through, and he literally trips over his own feet. And it was.
But he probably did like a roll to stand back up.
No, he just fell on his face. It was awesome.
Oh.
But and that, you know, in MERP, it's everything's rolled on 100 sided die, and so, or you know, 2 10s. You know, y'all know what I mean. And so like a crit fail is 5 and below. You know, it's not like a natural 1, but it corresponds to that. And so, you know, stuff like that happens that you can write into a video game, but, you know, just the spontaneity of the moment that, you know, this guy is so awesome in his presence that like angels are singing as he's descending upon the battle, and then he falls.
And then the angels go, oh.
Yeah.
They're like, oh.
Oh, and we had one guy who kept climbing trees every chance he got, and he ended up like really succeeding in everything because he was up in a tree at the time, like when something bad happened.
Yeah, he was pretty much like a squirrel.
Yeah, and then there was the time that you tried to convince the trolls that you were an orc.
I thought that was a fabulous plan. And it actually started to work, but I think I got a critical, not a critical fail.
It did. I was like, there's no way this is going to work. And then you just kept rolling like 80s, 90s, 95. And I'm like, okay, let's keep going then. And then finally you just started, you know, tripping over your own words.
But I want to say that we did accomplish the mission.
Yeah, you did accomplish the mission. It
actually worked because they did find out that I was just wearing an orc's face and his skinned hands as gloves.
That's true.
But remember, we had set up the sleeping bags over the entrance of the cave, and so when we broke the barrier as they were chasing me, they turned to stone.
That's right.
We planned that they would.
Yeah, the whole plan was to convince them that it was night, so that they would leave the cave. And this is Middle Earth, right? So, you know, that the trolls,
they're dumb and they turn into stone.
And they're dumb and turn into stone. And this is pre Lord of the Rings era where, trolls were starting to get smarter and more powerful. Those of y'all Tolkien fans know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that was the plan. And it's like, this is not something that I expected y'all to do.
But as a troll fell through the barrier, turning to stone as he fell, he did crush my shoulder. I think I had a broken shoulder bone or something.
Yeah, and you were trapped underneath them for the rest of the battle. While everybody else was fighting around you. You're like, hey guys, I'm under here.
It wouldn't matter because like my magic missile didn't do anything ever. It never hit anything. I don't think it even hit a tree or anything. I don't think I ever connected one magic missile that entire quest.
Right. And that spell is different than I forgot what it was actually called, but
it wasn't called magic missile.
No, it wasn't called. And it's different than the Dungeons and Dragons version because y'all, you know, you Dungeons and Dragons players are like, magic missile always hits or something like that. And it's like, no, we're talking about something different here.
Something different.
But yeah, I don't think you ever hit, you were a magic user. I don't think you ever landed a spell.
Well, I think the thing was that we kind of figured out or we discussed is that in Middle Earth, wizards are not like they would be in a Dungeons and Dragons world. Like wizards are like rare and they're super powerful. And like basically I was like a beginning wizard. I was level 1 or whatever. So it was going to take me a long time. Like if we were still playing to this day, that same quest,
I think it would be really cool.
I might be like actually doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, I think it'd be really neat.
But I think it would have taken like 5 years. So.
Oh yeah. Gosh, I was actually sorry that game ended because I had, it was, oh gosh, where did I get all the books? It was on Scribed. The website Scribed has like all of the old MERP stuff. And so I started just pulling all of the books and I found some adventures.
Selling us copies. Remember that? Remember you were selling them to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He did not do that. Scribed.
I had pulled I had a whole chain of adventures lined up, And it was just a time thing that we just couldn't commit to it anymore. But I was really excited about that, and it was very, very cool.
I bet we could get back on that, dude.
Yeah.
I think we could make it happen again.
Well, and that's like you'd gotten the Call of Cthulhu thing, is that Humble Bundle just had a sale on all of the newer Lord of the Rings RPG lineup thing. And so I just snagged all of that, all of the guides, all of the maps, all the adventures that they had on there. At least they might have some more available, but it's like now I've got a ton of material. I haven't looked at it yet, but it's like,
Awesome.
you know me and Tolkien. It's like,
Yeah.
if I have a chance to jump back into Middle Earth, I'm going to take it.
Dude, that's actually really cool. That might be really fun to do.
Yeah, so it's going to be between Lord of the Rings, Cthulhu, or Star Wars. That's a really hard choice. I've been wanting to play that Star Wars game too, because it's like I listened to both of those podcasts, and by the way, the two podcasts I'm referring to are Heroes of the Hydian Way and Silhouette Zero. Silhouette Zero is the one that I've kept up on, but both of them are very, very good.
And these are podcasts?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Heroes of the Hydian Way is the more serious one, I would say, with the more of a plot. Silhouette Zero has a plot. Don't get me wrong. It has a plot, but it's, okay. So I'm going to try to explain this because it's so good. The way size is judged in the Star Wars games is by silhouette size. And so, like, a human is silhouette 1. Very small creatures like Jawas or astromech droids or Ewoks or something like that are silhouette 0. And so what the party in this podcast are all silhouette 0 species. So they're all like 3 feet tall, the entire party. And it's the whole thing is hilarious and really witty and very fun to listen to.
Is this Heroes of the Hydian Way?
No, that's Silhouette Zero.
Silhouette Zero.
Heroes of the Hydian Way is more serious. It has more of a plot, more of a structured adventure, and it's very, very good. So either one of them I think are a lot of fun.
I'm excited. I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna look into these.
Yeah. I think you'd love them. I need to look to see if there's like a Lord of the Rings real play one, because I've listened to the Cthulhu one. I've listened to the Star Wars ones. I gotta.
Who did you listen to for Cthulhu?
It's called Cthulhu and Friends.
Let me see.
Yeah, it's definitely an adult podcast. But it's very good. It's very dark and depressing, which is what Cthulhu should be.
Yeah. I was thinking, is it? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check this out too. Because I think there's another guy that I used to listen to, Mike, somebody. I was in the Lovecraft e-zine. There was like an e-zine, and he was like the main dude on that. Anyway, he started some online Call of Cthulhu play.
Oh, wow, cool.
But anyway, I don't know. I can't give that reference here because I don't know his name.
Yeah. Oh, so. But yeah, so the game that I'm involved in now, we've been playing for a while now, and that's going to come out soon. And oh man, it's so good. I haven't shared with you what's been put together yet, but it's soon. It's going to be very soon. It's going to be a little later this month, and it's going to be out, and it's really good. So, but it is in a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons game. And it is a horror game. So, it's like the first thing that I'm involved in that's not going to be PG exactly, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, when certain things happen in the game, we're like, yeah, that's probably not going to be good for your kids. So watch out for that.
Oh, I'll have to put my Koopas in the cupboard. Okay. No, dude. Sometimes you got to do that, man. Sometimes you have to take it to another level of experience, and it can get gritty. Not for the ears of little children.
Right. Yeah.
Koopas.
But yeah, so that's fun. So yeah, I mean, obviously this is something this is a topic that can barely scratch the surface. Cause I mean, look, we could go into like Lord of the Rings role-playing games, and there's been like 3 or 4 of them. Right. And so, there's a lot of different systems, a lot of different ways people have approached this. And we're not going to be able to cover it all, but, it has, the genre of games has had an amazingly profound influence on retro video games, and is, it has often been closely associated with video gamers and video games. Much to the chagrin of people who, I mean, as soon as I said that, there are some tabletop RPG players out there that just immediately said, even though they're by themselves listening to this, immediately said out loud, that video game RPGs aren't real RPGs. And, yeah, so.
Well, like you just said, the people that created the video game RPGs were pretty dang sure they played some D&D first. So that was their contribution.
Right. And it did turn out to be a completely different type of a genre. Especially when you start getting into JRPGs that have, it typically don't do the character creation stuff and, letting you choose your own paths types things, and has like a set story. But even the American ones, they do differ quite a bit from the tabletop. But, the base mechanics are there. It's just how those base mechanics play out and with the player's interaction is where they really differ. But, it's definitely, the influence cannot be overstated. What TSR back in the day put together with Dungeons and Dragons, what has spread out over so many different systems over the years, has had just a huge effect on the general nerd community and on the gaming community, the gaming subset of the nerd community.
Yeah.
Good input there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it has. I mean, it's definitely, it's definitely important.
Thanks for coming in today. I appreciate you joining the show. I think we just lost Steven.
Okay. I'll tell you real quick. I was looking at this EVE Online thing because we were talking about RPGs earlier. And dude, I'm thinking this is what my fix must be. It might be, but this is a game. It's a video game. I was kind of looking for a tabletop.
Oh yeah, no. If you
what
get
EVE
into,
Online has to offer. If
you get into EVE Online, we may never rescue you.
Dude, you want to get into it with me?
No.
Dude, let's just hit it once. Let's just see. Surely nothing will happen if we play it for a day. We'll just commit ourselves to it for a whole day. We'll play together. We'll work together. Dude, it looks so freaking awesome, dude.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, well.
Tabletop related.
Yeah. So as going forward, we're going to talk a little bit about the Real Play podcast. We're going to talk about how technology has enhanced and changed the way we approach tabletop RPGs.
Roll20 and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. Roll20 is a big one. And then we're also going to talk about how tabletop RPGs have tried to transition directly into video games, and we're going to culminate that in one of the better. No.
Oh, I thought you were about to drop a big bomb like we were about to produce a video game.
No. Oh my goodness, I have enough to do.
You'll have time to do a little extra programming on the weekends.
Right. But the game, or at least one of the games that we're going to do an in-depth review of is Baldur's Gate. And the reason Baldur's Gate is because that was the first time I sat down with a Dungeons and Dragons video game and felt like they got the experience as close as they could, where they weren't sacrificing things anymore. And I thought it was a fantastic game. It's aged very well. It is very well remembered. And so we're going to tackle that. That's going to be in several weeks though. So yeah, you don't want to miss this. This is going to be a fun series.
I'm excited about it, dude. I'm super excited.
All right. Well, very good. So, in the meantime, next week we're going to drop that song. And, and when we drop the song, it's going to explain what the overall album is going to be, because this is a track off what will be our second full length album.
Sweet.
Unless the soundtrack for this podcast comes out first. Anyways, we have full length albums coming out soon. But yeah, we're putting this together. And so next week, when you hear the song, you will then know what the album is going to be, because it is all from a single game. Remixes in our special Techno Funk Boy style. So you don't want to miss that. If you do sign up for our Patreon page, patreon.com/technofunkboy, you will get those songs as they are released for free. And that's at any level of support. And so we really do appreciate that. If anybody actually does it, we don't appreciate it now because no one's doing it, but we will appreciate you greatly.
Hey, but we appreciate you even thinking about doing it, because we know that later you'll come to the decision that it's actually worth your money, and then we'll really be thanking you.
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate it, and we will leave it at that today. So thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next week.
See you later.
The Retro Zoo Super Show is brought to you by the Techno Funk Boy. Follow us on Twitter at Techno Funk Boy, on Facebook at the Techno Funk Boy, and sign up for our email list at technofunkboy.com. Also look for us on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon for music. If you are so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast catcher. If you are not so inclined, you are obviously some sort of villain trying to conquer the world. Unowned music and gameplay clips are used for educational and critical purposes. Thank you for listening, keep gaming, and once you have responsibilities that need to be done at this time,